Hello, this is Ann Gritch, and we are here talking about the Diocese of San Jose, the oral history. So we welcome you to this segment, and I am delighted that Father Dinh is with us today. Father is the vicar for Vietnamese ministry in our diocese and has many stories to tell about his own ministry here in the Church of San Jose. So welcome, Father Hao.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background? You came to us from Vietnam, but you went to the seminary first, is that right?
Right. Well, actually, I came here from Canada. I was in Canada for about little more than 2 years. And when I joined the Bay Area, the Diocese of San Jose, it was in 1988 when I began the seminary formation in Menlo Park.
Now, how did you choose the Diocese of San Jose when you were in Canada?
First, I considered joining the Diocese of Calgary in Alberta, Canada. I have a sister in Canada. But then I changed my mind because of the cold weather. Calgary is like Denver at the foot of the Rocky Mountains. So I have another sister in San Jose. So that's another option for me.
Well, we're glad that you chose that option.
Thank you.
So how long were you at St. Patrick's?
I was there for 5 years, including the pastoral year. So actually 4 years in the seminary, plus the pastoral year.
And where did you spend your pastoral year?
At St. Justin in Santa Clara.
St. Justin's in
And
Santa Clara.
that's also my very first assignment after ordination.
So you at least had some familiarity with the parish.
Yes.
So you were ordained in 1993 and went to St. Justin.
Yes.
What kinds of adjustments did you find from seminary to parish and also another culture?
At the time, by the time I was in St. Justin, I felt more confident, and because of the time in my at St. Justin in my pastoral year, so it's a familiar community. That's my advantage, and also the pastoral year at St. Justin helped me to know or experience parish life in the Bay Area. Even though at the time the makeup of the parish was mostly Caucasian, but I found it a very good experience.
And of course, it's not very Caucasian now. None of our parishes are predominantly Caucasian, which is one of the great gifts of our diocese. Exactly. Did you have any difficulty acculturating? Because you had come from Vietnam to Canada. Canada's a little different from us, but English speaking at least. So how was that transition time?
I think I was very blessed or fortunate to be so welcomed. I felt welcome in the Diocese of San Jose, and also in the seminary. The Sulpician, priests or professors, they made me feel welcome. And also my classmates, that's a wonderful class. So that made my day easier, my time in the seminary easier.
How do you think it is now for clergy or seminarians coming from other countries?
Now, going back to the 80s, late 80s in San Jose or the seminary, it's already been diverse, but not as diverse as we see today. So my main focus or main goal was to be part of the culture here in the Bay Area. So I found it not too difficult, probably because of the hospitality I felt both in the seminary and in the diocese. And I remember even when I was a seminarian, I felt comfortable to be among the clergy, the priests, who were active in the diocese, they were very welcoming. Even though I was one of the few Asian faces at the time.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting now, we have so many Asian as well as Latino
Yes.
and Filipino priests, but one of the things I have noticed is some of our Asians particularly are men who were either born here or came here when they were very young.
Yes.
So that it is they have a different experience from yours.
Yes.
In terms of, which also adds to the mix. It's really quite wonderful. You mentioned the late 80s. Can we talk just a little bit about the Vietnamese situation in the 80s in the diocese?
Okay. When I came here, 1988, I began to know the Vietnamese community in our diocese. In Canada, in Calgary, there's also a Vietnamese community, but it's much smaller. Just a few thousand Vietnamese in Calgary, I think. But in San Jose, I felt like this is really big. A lot of Vietnamese, even though at the time, compared to today, it's still smaller than today.
Yeah.
But coming from Canada to San Jose is really a big difference. I could fit in the Vietnamese community here very well. Of course, because I was born in Vietnam, and it's funny because I remember at a Lunar New Year celebration in San Jose or something, when I had a chance to talk to the Vietnamese community in Vietnamese, and a man said to me, "Wow, your Vietnamese is so good." He thought that I somehow grew up here, and I could speak Vietnamese so well.
He was impressed. That's a great story.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the challenges that face the Vietnamese community, both then and then now?
Okay. When I came here in 1988, of course, I heard about the problem in San Jose with the so-called dissidents. When it actually happened around 85 or 86, I was still in Canada, and I didn't hear much about it. So when I came here, suddenly everybody, those who are non-Vietnamese, would ask me, "What do you think about the situation in San Jose?" I said, "Sorry, but I just came here from Canada."
Right.
I heard something, but I was not part of the story. But then I tried to explain to my friends or those who are not from the Vietnamese culture. I said maybe because this is the first generation, so they would like to their identity or their culture is so important to them. They would like to be able to have a community of their own, to have their celebrations or cultural expressions, and maybe we need to have some mutual understanding, and maybe we need someone to help the diocese to understand the Vietnamese culture a little bit better. But it's really difficult for me to be here as a newcomer and heard people talk about that almost all the time.
Yeah.
And also I tried to understand the friends who are not from the Vietnamese culture, to see or hear what they hope or they, so it's really difficult for me during that time.
I can imagine. Because you really had two competing values.
Right.
You had the value of national parish,
Right.
of your own, and the value of inclusion. also, when you mentioned the first generation, particularly, I was thinking to myself as you were talking, they didn't come here because they wanted to.
Right.
They were forced to come
Exactly.
here. So that the tendency or the desire to stay together, I think, is very human, very natural.
Yeah, you're right. They are not immigrants, but mostly, if not all, they are refugees.
Yes.
Even myself, even though I was in Canada as an immigrant, but I still see myself as a refugee. And also, I think there's another difference between the Vietnamese immigrants or refugees and those who are coming from Europe, for example. Because coming from Asia, the culture is very different from the mainstream here.
Yes.
So that's another factor. Plus, we left Vietnam in a very dramatic way, and many escaped prisons or persecution.
Yes.
So it's very difficult. So they wanted to support each other.
Well, and happily, the situation did resolve itself.
Yeah.
I remember being with Bishop Pierre as his Master of Ceremonies at St. Maria Goretti.
Yeah.
And that was just a wonderful reconciling time.
Yeah.
And the community really deserves credit for that. And Father Kevin Joyce deserves a lot of credit for that. So the Vietnamese community now, as you're vicar for Vietnamese ministry, you have a lot of folk under your care.
Yeah.
Both clergy and parishioners, is that right?
Yeah. Well, I'm more like a liaison between the diocese and the Vietnamese community, and between the different Vietnamese communities in the diocese. But now, the more I am here, the more I appreciate our local diocese for reaching out to the Vietnamese and also other ethnic groups. When I first came here, maybe I was looking at the diocese from the Vietnamese perspective. But now, the more I'm here, the more I see from both sides, And also the other Vietnamese, I think they also they appreciate the hospitality that the diocese offer to them here, and I think they are very active in many parishes, not only in a parish with the Vietnamese community, they are also active in the other parishes in this diocese.
Oh yes, I'm thinking of Hung, who is at
Yeah.
Sacred Heart Saratoga, doing wonderful work as a liturgist.
Yeah, so looking back at what happened in the 80s, I think it's just unfortunate, maybe a lot of misunderstanding or lack of information or whatever,
Yeah. I mean, it's a part of our history, but we've grown from it.
Yeah.
Definitely, I think. I know when I was directing the Institute for Leadership and Ministry, we had very many young Vietnamese men and women who were doing wonderful things in their parish and in their communities. So that is really wonderful. What do you think are some of the challenges that we have as a diocese, both in terms of our multicultural people, but also our presbyterate? One of the great things, I think, is that our priests reflect the same demographics as our people.
Right.
Our people can look at our priests and find one that looks like them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I think, a great gift. But with every gift, there's also challenges. I'm just wondering what kind of challenges you've encountered or have heard about.
Now, I'm at St. Martin in Sunnyvale. We have the masses or liturgies in 3 different languages, English, Spanish, and Vietnamese.
Okay.
But I also see people from other cultures, from India or the Philippines and other parts of the world. I don't speak Spanish, even though I learned some Spanish in the seminary. But people are pleasant. They are welcoming. Even when I don't speak their language, we still connect.
Mm-hmm.
And people begin to come to me for confessions, you know. I just do my best to help them.
All you have to do is listen. Father.
Yeah, listen, right. And when we have celebrations, we work together.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the past year is our centennial.
At St. Martin.
Yes, and we have people from different cultures working together,
Mm-hmm.
bringing their own food, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to make it really festive. And I'm glad to be part of St. Martin. Very diverse, but we have a good sense of community. And of course, we do have challenges. Not only different languages, but also different cultures or cultural perspectives.
Yeah, ways of thinking.
Yes, yes. For example, for the Vietnamese families, I think many parents find it difficult to know how to raise their children in this culture. Because in this culture, children learn to be independent,
Mm-hmm.
to be self-reliant, to have their own opinion. You know.
Mm-hmm. And to not hold back from giving that opinion.
Right, right. And their parents understand that, but it's still difficult for them. Probably because the Vietnamese culture is mostly a family-oriented culture.
Mm-hmm.
We are very close to each other. And parents, they just care about their children. But maybe they are too protective.
Mm.
They are not willing to let their children to try to, to learn on their own. And also in the Vietnamese parish or Vietnamese community in the parish, they still look at the clergy the old way, like in Vietnam,
Which is how?
a lot of respect
Uh-huh.
and also a lot of expectations.
Uh-huh. With the respect comes the
Right,
expectations.
right.
In terms of what? Work? In terms of
Like
blessings?
they expect the priest to be at their meetings, to be present,
At their beck and call.
Yeah, in a sense.
Uh-huh.
But I think the younger generations, they begin to be, they're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
They also have a sense of respect, but they look at the priest as more like a human being.
Which you are.
Yes. So there's some transition.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm wondering too if some of it is the older generation being concerned that some of the culture and the history is being lost with the
Right.
younger ones, that the younger ones become so acculturated. And youth is its own culture.
Yeah.
It crosses all kinds of boundaries.
And it's very interesting. I remember when I first entered St. Patrick's Seminary, I wanted to make it easy for everyone to remember my name. So I introduced myself as Joseph Dinh,
Oh,
And then after a while, I realized that there were so many Josephs in the house. So I wanted to be called Hao again, to be not to be different from other guys, but so that there's no confusion,
because you're how Joseph did. Is that
Yeah.
right?
At my ordination, I put my name that way. Joseph is my baptismal name anyway. To this day, they call me Hao, except one person, the former rector, Jerry Coleman.
Oh, yes.
He still remembers me with that name. Hey, Joseph. That's fine.
That's fine. One isn't so bad.
And another thing is, I didn't like it when they call me Joe. if they call me Joseph, that's fine. But if they call me Joe, somehow I don't like it.
Joseph Benedict is the same way.
Yeah,
Father
yeah,
Joseph Benedict
yeah.
says, yes,
Yeah.
go by Joseph.
And then I noticed a change in the Vietnamese population as well.
Mm.
In those days, many Vietnamese adopted an anglicized name.
Oh,
Yeah, but in the past 10 years also, many go back to their given name, the Vietnamese given name.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know why.
and of course we have here in San Jose, many of our politicians now come from the Vietnamese
Yeah,
community.
mhm.
Yeah. And with their Vietnamese, some with anglicized and some with the
Yeah,
Vietnamese
yeah.
name.
So those are a few challenges to be part of the culture.
Mhm.
But I think the challenge continues if we don't change the way we think. So I cannot explain, but everyone has a different view or their way of thinking.
Mhm.
But at least on the surface, I think those who are here long enough, they know how to adapt or adjust to the culture here.
Studies that have been done about people entering another culture,
Mhm.
it is a huge,
Yes.
huge challenge.
Mhm.
You're a foot in both worlds.
Yeah.
It's I can really imagine. What about among the priests? Because there's a good number of Vietnamese priests here.
Yeah. I would say most of us are comfortable to be in both worlds,
Mhm.
Vietnamese culture and the American culture here.
Mhm.
Especially those of us who went through St. Patrick's Seminary.
Yeah.
That's
Because you
a-
have a common formation.
Yes. The older priests who came here from Vietnam, of course, they were more rooted in the Vietnamese culture.
Sure.
Yeah. But even the younger guys, I'm surprised. They have a lot of cultural background from Vietnam. Until now, we have only one Vietnamese priest, or very soon we have one Vietnamese priest who was born in San Jose in America. The very first one to be ordained this June.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
That's Hoa Vu.
Vu, yes.
He's a nephew of Father Lu Vu.
Oh, I didn't realize
Uh-huh.
that. Father Lu Vu was
Yeah.
did his pastoral year at my parish.
Yeah.
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 Oh, and so, but he's the first born here.
Yeah, the very
Ah.
first. And another one, he's still in the seminary. In a few years, he will be the second one, God willing.
Uh-huh. But some must have come as children, though. I'm thinking of
Yes.
Father Joe Kim.
Yes.
Of course, he's Korean, but some of the others, yeah.
Yeah.
But the first one, oh, that's interesting.
But it also depends on their families.
Mhm.
They may be born here, but if their family is still deeply rooted in the Vietnamese culture,
Sure.
they will be shaped by that culture as well.
Exactly. And that's not a bad thing.
But I'm surprised that a number of Vietnamese priests
Mhm.
who seem to be young, but somehow they are still more like Vietnamese than Americanized. You know,
Is it more in terms of a clerical culture or more in terms of...
maybe. So I don't know. Maybe because of their family background,
Mhm.
you know, they were going more to the Vietnamese mass, or you know.
Mhm. Yeah, it is fascinating, isn't
Yeah.
it? Cultures really are fascinating. I'm also aware that several of our priests, I was thinking of Father Robert Mercado, and also Father Steve Kim, went to Vietnam
Yeah.
to try and learn Vietnamese, and I say try, because they say it is a difficult language.
He has a flair of language.
He does.
Wonderful, wonderful man.
Yeah, it's a gift.
Yeah.
It truly is, and he really enjoyed it. Exactly. How would you describe your experience ministering here in San Jose, both as a pastor and now as a parochial vicar?
Well, first let me say it's a joy to be a priest. whether a pastor or not. When I was pastor first in a small, tiny community of 400 families at St. Thomas of Canterbury.
No school and
Right, I really enjoyed it, even though there are some responsibilities. But the people were wonderful. They just love anybody, not only the priest, but any visitor. They would come to welcome. They would welcome that visitor immediately.
That was my experience.
Yes. And I learned from them that tradition of hospitality. And to this day, I still miss that community.
I bet you do.
Yeah. And when I was transferred to Holy Family, that's another wonderful community. And they are very proud of their community.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Yes.
They are much bigger, but they also have a good sense of community. And that made a big difference in being part of their communities. Now, of course, when I was a pastor, I was had more responsibilities, maybe definitely busier, but I found a lot of help and cooperation from the parishioners. It's amazing. When I asked them, they said, "Okay, I will help you." You know, it's like they were ready. When asked, they were ready to help.
That's
Both
wonderful.
at St. Thomas and Holy Family.
Now at St. Thomas, you were by yourself, is that right?
Yes.
And at Holy Family, you had an associate.
Yes.
So that's a different
Yeah.
dynamic as well.
Yeah. And now in my role as a parochial vicar, of course it's easier to be not the pastor. Even though in my current assignment, it's more like 3 different communities, 3 language groups.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good experience for me to not only to be familiar with the Vietnamese group, my culture, but also to be exposed to the Hispanic community, to know their popular devotions, their traditions, you know. And somebody told me that you learn about a culture first by trying their food. And then their language. And if you are deep into their culture, deep enough, you would marry their daughter.
That's great.
Of course, I just stop at the first level.
Exactly. You
Just trying their food
the food.
and enjoy their culture. They're very easy to talk with. That's what I found. Easy, friendly. You know.
Now, Father Justin Lay at St. Elizabeth has pretty much the same demographic as you. I think they have Mass in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And, have you two talked at all about the differences? And 'cause that's a
Occasionally.
growing parish,
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
I just wish that I had more chances to practice Spanish. You know, I like learning new languages, but as you know, when you are older, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
And when I learned Spanish in the seminary, that's my intention, you know, to know another language. But because the demands in the seminary were too many demands, so I never had a chance to practice that.
No, and at St. Justin, when you did your pastoral year, there probably was not a large Hispanic community.
And there's a Portuguese community.
Oh, old, yes, they've been there a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right, you have to practice.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you really do need to practice.
But even when I say a few words like "Hola, ¿cómo está?", their eyes light up.
I know. When our bishop is out for Our Lady of Guadalupe, and he greets people, they tell him, "Oh, Bishop, your Spanish is perfect," and he knows it's not perfect, but they're just so warm and welcoming. Yeah.
Especially when I visit someone who is sick, as soon as I say "Hola, ¿cómo está?" they're so happy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, it shows you care.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the stories? I know that you enjoy talking to your parishioners and hearing their stories. Are there any that you can share with us?
Stories from whom?
From people that you've spoken with.
Okay. Probably their stories. For now, I don't remember exactly, but we exchange stories that made each other laugh. But there's one thing I can say. If I give a homily to the Caucasian parishioners or other cultures other than Vietnamese culture, I could tell a joke. I could make them little, laugh. But for the Vietnamese culture, I think it's more appropriate not to tell jokes, or maybe just something just enough to make people smile,
but not a comedian.
Not comedian. Some occasionally that's fine. And also when I in my homily, if I preach to the Vietnamese congregation, I would rarely share my own faith experience. But to another community, it's more comfortable.
Yeah, it's like talking to your family.
Yeah.
One other thing I was just thinking of, in the last several years we have ordained several Vietnamese deacons. How is the diaconate perceived by the Vietnamese communities and by the Vietnamese clergy?
I think they still need some explanation or clarification about the role of the deacon, and also in the Vietnamese culture is more like a hierarchical culture, influenced by Confucianism. In society, you have the king, and then your father, and then your teacher, and your father, and so forth. So they look at the clergy that way. They respect the deacon, but they think the priest is still better.
Still better.
For example, for baptism, the baptism of their children, they still prefer a priest.
Or the marriage of their daughter.
And also maybe in their parish, they already have the staff of volunteers to do different ministries. And now the pastor must find a position or role fitting for the deacon. So that's something else.
And I think that's true in our Anglo parishes as well.
Yeah.
Because we do have such a strong lay ecclesial ministry in the diocese.
So I heard not from Vietnamese, but even from priests in the diocese, even among the priests, we don't know what
to do with the deacons.
Some people may look at the deacon like a mini priest or a glorified acolyte.
Yes, one or the other. Yeah.
But I think they could be wonderful in different ministries.
Well, they do wonders in detention ministry. I've heard, and I have not met a deacon who doesn't love detention ministry. There must be something about it. I have no idea, but it's fascinating to me how they really, really like.
And recently I said to someone who is trained to be on the road to be a deacon, I said that looking back at my ordination to the diaconate and ordination priest, there's something from the diaconate ordination that's still in my heart. Somehow I still value or cherish that ordination. Something beautiful about that.
You were a deacon for how long?
For 4 months.
4 months. Yeah.
I was ordained a deacon on January the 23rd, and then a priest on May 15th.
Yeah. Now I think they have a full deacon year, which I think is better.
Yeah.
I would love you to recount the story when you were installed as a pastor at St. Thomas of Canterbury, and you told the story about visiting the Episcopalian lady.
You want to hear it again?
I do think that this is part of our history.
I think that story somehow came to me on the top of my head. I didn't plan to tell that story. But when I realized the parish is named after St. Thomas of Canterbury, I remembered a lady in a not nursing home, but assisted living facility. When I met her, she was asking me what church I was from, and I said, well, I am from St. Thomas of Canterbury. Somehow maybe I emphasized the Canterbury part, and she paused for a second and she looked up and said, Canterbury. And then I learned that she's an Episcopalian.
Right. So she liked Canterbury.
Yeah. And it's a pleasant conversation with that lady.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful story.
Yeah. She's a wonderful person to talk with.
Is she still alive?
Probably not.
Right. That was a while back.
Yeah.
When you were, So, any other things that we should be talking about? This has been wonderful.
You want another funny story? Now
Yes.
I remember another one.
Oh, good.
It's also at my installation, but at Holy Family. I remember I was assigned to Holy Family for 2 years as a parochial vicar before going to St. Thomas.
Right.
And during my short term at Holy Family, I was away for 6 months on my sabbatical. So actually I spent only a year and a half at Holy Family. And when I came back as their pastor, I was telling, more like teasing myself or teasing the community. You know what? I was here before with you, the people of Holy Family, but I did not fulfill all my term. Only a year and a half. 6 months were missing. So now that's why the bishop has to appoint me back to Holy Family for 6 more years.
To make up for the 6 months.
To make up for the 6 months. And they were laughing. Well, I think I could relate to the community easily. That's why I was telling those jokes.
Sure.
Yeah. They were so friendly and welcoming. And when I came back to Holy Family, only 5 years after the first assignment, I could tell there's a major change.
Really?
In terms of diversity. It's amazing to me.
In 5 years?
In 5 years.
Wow.
I remember very well when I was first at Holy Family, the majority of parishioners were Caucasian. The same for the school. But 5 years later, it's different.
Yeah.
I saw people from different cultures, coming to Holy Family.
Well, and with Silicon Valley booming too, and immigration.
Yeah.
But
the spirit of the community is still the same. A good sense of community.
They do, and they have a real sense of their history.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
I think they inherit some good things from the Jesuits. They still remember fondly the Jesuits.
Yeah. Who was pastor when you were there as a parochial vicar?
Father Matt Stanley.
Oh, Father Matt Stanley, my pastor now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then...
he loved Holy Family too.
Yeah, I know. He's there for 2 terms.
Yeah.
12 years.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, I am so glad that we've had this time. Thank you very much for being with us and for sharing some of the history and particularly the great contributions that the Vietnamese community has made. So thank you very much, Father.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.